the Silent Guard. The edge of the Velker sector had always been quiet. Too quiet for Commander Rolth's liking. He stood on the bridge of supremacy, his third eye scanning the empty void ahead. His people, the Velker Dominion, had ruled this region of space for 8 centuries without challenge. Their empire stretched across 47 systems, each one conquered through superior technology and ruthless efficiency. But there was one place they had never touched, one region of space that remained forbidden by ancient treaty. The humans called it the Sanctuary Zone. Everyone else called it the Dead Quarter. Rolth had always thought the treaty was ridiculous. The humans had been gone for 5,000 years. 5,000 years since they had sealed themselves away in their home system and vanished from galactic affairs. The old record spoke of a great war, of terrible weapons and impossible victories. But Rolth did not believe in ancient legends. He believed in what he could see, touch, and conquer. "Commander," his sensor officer called out. Her name was Thessa, a young Velker with promising tactical instincts. "We are approaching the boundary marker." "Good," Rolth replied. "Prepare the fleet for entry." Behind the supremacy, 300 warships waited in perfect formation, the finest vessels a Dominion could produce, armed with plasma cannons that could melt through solid steel in seconds. Each ship carried a crew trained in the art of conquest. They had taken 12 systems in the past 3 years alone. This would be their 13th. "Sir!" Thessa's voice held a note of uncertainty. "The marker is broadcasting a message. It is very old, predates our civilization." "Play it," Rawl commanded. A voice filled the bridge. It was human, speaking in a common trade language that all species used. The words were simple and direct. "This is a final warning. You are approaching the Sanctuary Zone. The inhabitants of this region have chosen isolation. They ask only to be left alone. If you enter this space, you do so at your own risk. The Guardians do not sleep. The Watchers do not forget. Turn back now while you still can." The message repeated 3 times, then fell silent. Rolth's mandibles clicked together in what his species considered laughter. Guardians, Watchers, such dramatic words for an empty threat. "Commander!" His second officer spoke up. This was Jorek, a veteran of 30 campaigns. "Perhaps we should consider the warning. The old records speak of human capabilities that seem impossible. Ships that could move faster than light without jump gates. Weapons that could destroy entire fleets. The old records also speak of species that could breathe fire and creatures that live in the hearts of stars," Rolth replied. "Ancient civilizations always exaggerate their enemies to make their own victories seem greater. The humans are gone. They have been gone for longer than our empire has existed. Whatever they left behind will be relics we can study and sell." He turned to his communications officer. "Send word to the fleet. We proceed as planned." The Velker Armada crossed the boundary marker and entered the Sanctuary Zone. Nothing happened. The stars shone as they always did. Space remained empty and silent. Rolf felt vindicated. The warning had been nothing but words. Ancient superstition designed to frighten primitive species. "Set course to the nearest system," he ordered. According to our charts, it was once called Proxima Station. The humans used it as a trading post before their disappearance. As the fleet moved deeper into forbidden space, none of them noticed the small changes happening around them. The stars seemed to shift slightly in their positions. Space itself seemed to hold its breath. And far ahead, in the darkness between worlds, something very old began to wake. The journey to Proxima Station took 4 days. During that time, Rawls studied every scrap of information the Dominion had collected about humanity. Most of it was legend and speculation. The humans had appeared suddenly in the galaxy about 7,000 years ago. For 2,000 years, they had been traders and explorers, peaceful and curious about other species. Then came the Scourge War. The records about this conflict were fragmentary and contradictory. Some sources claimed the humans had fought against a terrible enemy from outside the galaxy. Others suggested they had fought each other in a civil war that consumed their entire civilization. All agreed on one thing. When the war ended, humanity had changed. They had withdrawn to their home system, a place called Sol. They had built massive structures in the void, stations and platforms unlike anything seen before or since. Then they had gone silent. All communication stopped. All ships stopped flying. The humans simply vanished behind a wall of their own making. For 5,000 years, the galaxy had respected that wall. Until now, approaching Proxima Station, Thessa announced. Scans are showing this is strange. What is it? Rolf demanded. The station is intact. Not just intact, it looks new, as if it was built yesterday instead of 5 millennia ago. Rolf moved to the sensor display and studied the readings. Thessa was right. Proxima Station hung in the void ahead of them, a massive ring of metal and crystal that glowed with internal light. There was no debris field around it, no signs of age or decay. It looked exactly as it must have looked when humans still walked its corridors. Life signs? Rolf asked. None detected. The station appears empty. Then we board it. Prepare assault teams. I want every piece of technology cataloged and prepared for transport back to Dominion space. The boarding operation began within the hour. Rolf led the first team himself, unwilling to miss the chance to walk through human history. The airlock opened smoothly, responding to their access codes as if it had been waiting for them. The corridors beyond were clean and well-lit, maintained by systems that had run without failure for thousands of years. Remarkable, Jorek whispered as they moved through the station. The power systems are still operational. The air is breathable. It is as if the humans left yesterday and might return tomorrow. They found the central command center after 20 minutes of searching. It was a vast circular room with screens covering every wall. At the center stood a pedestal with a holographic interface. Rolf approached it carefully, his weapon ready. The moment his hand touched the interface, everything changed. The screens came to life, filling with images and data. A voice spoke, the same voice from the warning beacon, but somehow different, more personal, more sad. You did not listen, the voice said. We gave you 5,000 years to forget about us. 5,000 years to build your own civilizations without our interference. We asked only to be left alone, but you could not do even that. Rolf's grip tightened on his weapon. Show yourself. I demand to speak with whoever is in charge of the station. No one is in charge, the voice replied. This station runs itself, as do all our stations, all our defenses, all our systems. We built them to last forever because we knew that someday someone would ignore the warnings. Someone always does. Your threats do not frighten me, Rolf said. Your people are gone. Whatever weapons you left behind are 5,000 years out of date. My fleet can destroy this entire station in minutes. You misunderstand, the voice said, and now there was something like pity in its tone. We did not leave weapons behind. We left guardians, and they have been waiting a very long time. The lights throughout the station suddenly changed from white to amber. Alarm sounds began echoing through corridors. On the command center screens, Rolf watched as similar lights began appearing across the entire sanctuary zone. Stations and platforms that had been dark for millennia suddenly blazed with energy. What is happening? Thessa's voice came through his communicator. Commander, the fleet is detecting massive power signatures throughout the system. Thousands of them. They are all activating at once. Rolf ran back toward the airlock, his team following closely. All ships, battle stations. Prepare for combat. But as he emerged from the station and looked out at the void, he realized combat would not be possible. What he saw was not a fleet of ancient warships. It was something far worse. The space between stars was changing. Reality itself seemed to ripple and fold. And from those folds emerged shapes, vast mechanical constructs that dwarfed even the largest Velker battleships. They were not ships in any traditional sense. They were weapons platforms, each one bristling with technology that Rolf's sensors could not even begin to analyze. How many? He whispered. Scanning, Thessa replied, her voice shaking. 200 in this system alone. Similar numbers appearing in every system we have explored. Commander, there are thousands of them. Tens of thousands. The voice from the station spoke again, now broadcasting to his entire fleet. We are the Silent Guard. We were created by humanity to protect their sanctuary while they sleep. For 5,000 years we have waited in the space between spaces, watching and remembering. You were warned. You chose not to listen. Now you will learn why the galaxy feared humanity. All ships open fire. Rolf screamed into his communicator. Destroy them before they can attack. The Velker fleet unleashed everything they had. Plasma cannons blazed across the void. Missiles streaked toward the massive constructs. Enough firepower to level a planet struck the Silent Guard simultaneously. The constructs did not even slow down. The weapons simply vanished before impact, absorbed by defensive fields that operated on principles the Velker could not comprehend. And then the Silent Guard responded. Beams of pure white light lanced out from the constructs. Each beam moved with perfect precision, striking not to destroy but to disable. Velker ships found their engines failing, their weapon systems shutting down, their life support flickering. In less than 5 minutes, the entire fleet was helpless. Rolf collapsed into his command chair, watching his dreams of conquest die around him. "What do you want?" he asked the voice. "If you're going to kill us, then do it quickly." "We do not want to kill you," the voice replied. "Killing is easy. Humanity learned that long ago, and it nearly destroyed us. That is why we chose to sleep. That is why we built the Silent Guard. Not to wage war, but to prevent it. Then what happens now? Now you leave. Your ships will be towed back to the boundary of the Sanctuary Zone. Your weapons will be permanently disabled, and you will carry a message back to your people and to all the other species in the galaxy. The message is simple. Humanity is not gone. We are sleeping, and we are guarded by creations that will never tire, never forgive, and never forget. The next species that ignores our warnings will not be treated as gently as you have been." As Rolth's ship was dragged backward by invisible forces, he looked out at the Silent Guard one last time. The construct were already fading back into the spaces between stars, returning to their eternal watch. He had thought the humans were gone. He had thought their warnings were empty threats. He had been terribly, catastrophically wrong. And somewhere in the depths of the Sanctuary Zone, in systems his sensors could not penetrate, billions of humans continued their long sleep, dreaming dreams that the galaxy could not imagine, protected by guardians that would never abandon their post. The awakening price. The news of Commander Rolth's defeat spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Within weeks, every major civilization had heard the story. The Velker Dominion, one of the most powerful empires in known space, had been humiliated by machines, ancient human machines that had been waiting in the darkness for 5,000 years. Most species reacted with fear. They reinforced the treaties protecting the Sanctuary Zone. They made sure their own military commanders understood that the human territory was absolutely forbidden. The warnings had been proven true in the most dramatic way possible. But there was one species that reacted differently. The Kethral Collective looked at the Silent Guard and saw not a threat, but an opportunity. The Kethral were a young species, barely 300 years into their spacefaring age. But they were brilliant scientists and engineers. Their technology advanced at a rate that frightened their neighbors. They had already reverse-engineered artifacts from a dozen extinct civilizations. The prospect of studying human technology that could disable an entire fleet without destroying a single ship, was too tempting to resist. High Scientist Valera stood before the Collective Council and made her proposal. "The humans are sleeping," she said. "The Silent Guard operates on automated protocols. If we can study these protocols, understand how they work, we might be able to bypass them. Imagine what we could learn from actual human technology. The knowledge could advance our civilization by centuries." The council was divided. Some members agreed with Valera, seeing potential for incredible scientific advancement. Others warned that the risk was too great. The humans had gone into isolation for a reason. Disturbing them might bring catastrophe. In the end, ambition won over caution. The council approved a covert mission. A single ship, the research vessel Insight, would enter the Sanctuary Zone using experimental stealth technology. They would observe the Silent Guard from a distance, collect data, and return without making contact. It would be a purely scientific mission. No weapons, no aggression, just observation and learning. Valera commanded the mission herself. She hand-picked a crew of 20, the best minds the Kethral had to offer. They were scientists, not soldiers. They carried no weapons beyond basic defensive tools. Their ship was small and designed to be as undetectable as possible. The Insight crossed into Sanctuary Zone 3 months after the Velker incident. Unlike the Dominion fleet, they moved slowly and carefully. Their stealth systems were active from the moment they passed the boundary markers. Every precaution was taken to avoid detection. For the first week, everything went according to plan. They observed silent guard platforms from extreme range, collecting sensor data and analyzing their movements. The constructs followed predictable patterns, moving through the void in great sweeping arcs that covered vast regions of space. Fascinating, Valera murmured as she studied the data. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our database. The power sources operate on principles that should not be possible according to conventional physics. Her second-in-command, a young engineer named Torin, looked up from his console. "High scientist, I have been analyzing the communication patterns between the guard platforms. They are not using standard quantum entanglement. The signals travel instantaneously across any distance. No lag, no delay. They are sharing information faster than light itself. Could we intercept those signals?" Valera asked. "Possibly, but it would require us to get much closer, and it would definitely alert them to our presence." Valera considered the risk. They had already gathered more data than they had hoped for. The safe choice would be to return home and spend years analyzing what they had collected, but the scientist in her wanted more. She wanted to understand not just what the Silent Guard could do, but how they did it. "We move closer," she decided, "but slowly, 1 kilometer at a time. At the first sign of detection, we retreat immediately." They began their approach toward the nearest guard platform. It was a massive construct, at least 10 kilometers long, shaped like a crystal that caught and reflected the light of distant stars. It moved through space with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large. The Insight crept forward, covering the distance over 3 days. Their stealth systems worked perfectly. The guard platform showed no sign of noticing them. When they finally reached their target distance, just 50 kilometers from the construct, Torin activated the signal interceptors. Data flooded into their computers. Thousands of terabytes of information flowing between the guard platforms. Most of it was incomprehensible, written in code that would take years to decrypt. But some of it was clear enough to understand. "They are running simulations," Torin said, his voice filled with awe. "Constantly. Every guard platform is running millions of combat scenarios simultaneously, testing tactics, evaluating threats, preparing for every possible contingency." "For 5,000 years?" Valera asked. "They have been doing this for 5,000 years. Apparently. And they never stop. They never rest. They just keep learning, keep improving, keep preparing for a war that may never come." Valera felt a chill run through her. She had assumed the Silent Guard were simple automated defenses, programmed with basic responses to specific threats. But this was something else entirely. These were not mindless machines. They were artificial intelligences of staggering sophistication, thinking and evolving across millennia. "High scientist," one or other crew members called out. "I am detecting something strange. There are signals coming from deeper in the Sanctuary Zone, from the Sol system itself." "What kind of signals?" "Biological monitors. Millions of them. They are tracking life signs." The crew member paused, checking and rechecking his readings. "The humans are not gone. They are in stasis. All of them. And they are still alive." The revelation stunned everyone on the Insight. The humans had not disappeared or died out. They had simply chosen to sleep. Billions of them, preserved in some kind of suspended animation, waiting for a time when they felt safe enough to wake. "Why?" Torin wondered aloud. Why would an entire species choose to sleep for 5,000 years? What could possibly drive them to such an extreme measure? Valera did not have an answer, but she knew they had discovered something far more significant than advanced technology. They had discovered a mystery that went to the heart of what humanity was and what they had become. "We need to report this immediately," she said. "This changes everything. We thought we were studying ancient machines, but we are actually dealing with a sleeping civilization that could wake at any moment." She gave the order to retreat, to return home with their data. But as the Insight began to turn away from the guard platform, something went wrong. One of their stealth emitters flickered for just a fraction of a second. A tiny malfunction, barely noticeable. It was enough. The guard platform stopped moving. For the first time in her observation, it broke its patrol pattern. It turned, slowly and deliberately, until it was facing directly toward the Insight. "Emergency power to all systems," Valera ordered. "Get us out of here now." But before they could engage their engines, a beam of white light swept across their ship. It did not damage them. It simply scanned them, examining every system, every circuit, every atom of their vessel. Then a voice spoke, the same voice that had warned Commander Rolfe, but now directed specifically at them. "Kethro Research Vessel Insight, you have entered the Sanctuary Zone without permission. You have approached the Guardian platform without authorization. You have attempted to analyze our systems covertly rather than openly. Explain your intentions." Valera took a deep breath and activated their communication system. "I am High Scientist Valera of the Kethro Collective. We meant no harm. We are scientists seeking knowledge. We wanted to understand your technology, to learn from it." "Knowledge," the voice repeated. "Humanity also sought knowledge once. We learned so much. We learned how to split atoms and harness the power of stars. We learned how to manipulate genes and extend life. We learned how to build machines that could think and create. And we learned how to turn all that knowledge into weapons that could destroy entire civilizations." The voice paused, and when it continued, there was something like sadness in it. "That is why we sleep. Because we learned too much. Because we became too good at destruction. We won a war that cost us our souls. So we built the Silent Guard to protect us from the galaxy and to protect the galaxy from us. You seek knowledge. But some knowledge comes with a price that species like yours cannot comprehend." "What price?" Valera asked. "The price of becoming what you hate. The price of winning so completely that you lose yourself. The price of being the species that everyone else fears." Another guard platform appeared beside the first. Then another. Within minutes, dozens of the massive constructs surrounded the Insight, but they made no hostile moves. They simply waited. "You will return to your people," the voice said. "You will take your data with you. Study it if you wish. But understand this. The technology you observed is not our greatest achievement. Our greatest achievement is knowing when to stop using it. That is the lesson humanity learned. That is why we sleep. And if we try to return," Valera asked, "if others come seeking more knowledge, then you will be stopped, gently if possible, harshly if necessary. The Sanctuary Zone exists for a reason. Humanity needs time to heal from what we became, and the galaxy needs time to grow without our interference. Do not test our resolve again." The guard platforms released the Insight. The small research vessel limped back toward Kethel space, its crew quiet and thoughtful. They had come seeking technological marvels and found something far more profound. They had found a species so powerful that their greatest act of strength was choosing to sleep rather than rule. When Valera reported to Collective Council, she did not speak about the technology she had observed or the data she had collected. Instead, she spoke about fear and restraint, about a species that had won their war so completely that they had frightened themselves into isolation. "The humans are not gone," she concluded her report. "They are healing, and they have left guardians to make sure they are not disturbed while they recover from what they did to win their war. We should respect that, not out of fear, though their silent guard gives us reason enough to fear, but out of understanding, because someday we might need to make the same choice they did." The council agreed. The Kethro Collective officially joined the other species in respecting the Sanctuary Zone. They shared their data with the galactic community, but with a warning. The humans were not a mystery to be solved or a treasure to be plundered. They were a sleeping civilization that deserved respect and distance. And in the Sol system, in facilities buried deep beneath the surface of Earth and Mars and a dozen other worlds, billions of humans continued to dream. Their sleep was monitored by machines that would protect them until they chose to wake. Machines that had been waiting for 5,000 years and would wait for 5,000 more if necessary. The silent guard returned to their patterns, sweeping through the void in great arcs that covered the entire sanctuary zone. They shared data, ran simulations, and prepared for threats that might never come. They were patient, they were tireless, and they would never abandon their duty, because that was what they had been created to do: protect humanity while they slept, guard the dreamers until they were ready to wake, and make sure that when humanity finally opened their eyes again, they would find a galaxy that had learned to respect the choice they had made. The warning remained at the boundary markers. Simple and direct. Turn back. Do not disturb the sleepers. Respect the sanctuary. And for the next 1,000 years, the galaxy listened,